Welcome to episode 23 of the tutorial series Livewire 3 from scratch. My name is William Juma. In this episode, we will learn about how to create a multi-step form in Livewire 3. Let us go ahead and create a Livewire component. PHP artisan make Livewire, and then let us call our component multi-step like that. Maybe we can capitalize the S. I want us to go ahead and create a route for this component. So I will go to routes, web.php, and inside here I want us to include another class which we are going to call multi-step, and then of course we will create a route for this method. So in this case the route, I want to call it multi-step, and then the URL will be multi-step, and then the class will be multi-step, like that. So once we have it like that, it is possible for us to visit our app, and as you can see, we are having just this is my awesome title. So let us go ahead and do something about this form. I want us to open resources, views, and then Livewire. Then we open our component which is called multi-step. After we have opened it, this h1 title, I just want us to call it multi-step form, like that. I want us to have a class of offset 3 and column 6. I also want to give this heading of ours a class of deflex, and then we can be able to justify content center like that. If we check our form, it's centered nicely. I want us to go ahead and also include the form now, but before we do that, I will also want to have a h6 tag here, and here what we will have is the step. We will be able to put out that step, maybe 1 out of maybe 3 steps, something of that sort. Then after that, I would like us to go ahead and have our form, and in each form we will be having sort of like the heading. So the heading of the form, this is the heading of our first step. I want to call it name. So we will just be providing the full name, the first name, middle name, and last name, and we can be able to give it the class still to just center it nicely like that. And then, so this is our step 1, and I want us to have 3 forms here, 3 inputs, and we are going to have div with a class of mb3 like that, and then we will close our div. I just want to put 1 input here which we will be able to copy all through and use and reuse it. So I want us to have a label, and this label I want it to be having a class of form label like that. And then of course let us have the first name. I want us to have an input, and the type is text, and then of course we will have it having a class of form control like that, and we can be able to give it wire model, and we can say first underscore name like that. I would also want to handle the validation errors. So what I'm going to have here, I'm going to have that error, and then we are looking for the error that is related to the property first name, and then we can be able to spit out the error. Let us end error like that, and then inside here we can be able to have a span, and we will have the message, that is the validation error message like that. I can be able to give it a class of text danger like that. So basically that is sort of how our form will look like, but of course this is the first input, So what I'm going to do, I'm going to duplicate this for the first step. So I'm going to copy and paste here and paste once more. So we will have the middle name, and here middle name, just the first, yes, middle name, like that. And then also for the error, the same, middle name, and then for this one, last name, and then here also last name. So that is what we will have within our first step. And I want to go to the backend and be able to do a few things. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to open Livewire app, in this case app Livewire, and then multi-step, the class app Livewire, and then we move to multi-step. And here I want us to declare several properties which we are going to work with. So the first thing that I need to declare is a public current step. Can give it a default value that anytime we refresh, our current step will be 1. And then the other thing that I want us to declare is public total steps. And this one we can be able to set to 3. I just want our form to have 3 steps. Of course, if you are working and creating a form, you will decide the number of steps that that form will be going towards. Obviously, I want us to be able to also do a little bit more, but for now I want us to go back to the front end and be able to handle a few things there. And so what I want us to have, I want us to have, of course this is what we are having in the form, and what I would like to do, I want to just take care of this, and we can say that if current step is equals to 1, and then we can be able to, down here we can be able to have at end if, like that. So now if we are to refresh, now you can see we are having our form being displayed. I want to go ahead and be able to display, to have a little bit more inputs. So I want to have at else if. So in this case we can check for the current step as being 2, and inside here we'll be able to check to have some HTML. Also we can have at else if current step is 3, then we can now have end if. And below here I want us to have 3 buttons. So here I want us to have button, and with a class, the first button I want it to have a class of primary, btn primary, like that. And this one, let me call it next, so it will be a button for the next step. I want to copy the button severally. We will have a button for previous or back, maybe previous, like that, and then we will have a button for submit. I want to change the submit button to be secondary, maybe success is better, btn success. So if we can be able to refresh our form, that is what we are actually having. So we have previous, next, previous, and then submit. I think previous needs to be before next, so we are going to move this one up here, like that. So after that, I think if we check, our forms are displaying nicely. I want us to go ahead and be able to create the rest of the inputs. So for the next input, that is in step number 2, I want us to have several things. In step number 2, I want us to have email and phone number. So I want to just copy whatever it is that we had above here. So I'm going to copy what we have here, copy, and we are going to paste it here and modify accordingly. So what we are looking for here is email, email address. Then of course it should be wire model email, and the type should also be email, like that. And then of course our error should also be the error belonging to email. I have seen that we have a typo with a span for the error message. I think I've not completed typing it. It should be danger, not what I have typed, because at the end of everything there will be a problem. So we have that. We have email, the type wire model email, the type email, and also here I also want to copy and also modify. I want to just paste because I've already copied the previous one. So this one I want it to be phone, and then of course wire model phone, and then for the error also phone, that way. Of course the text danger, like that. As you can see, if we check, if we refresh, we still just have whatever it is that we're having here being displayed. We are not displaying anything apart from whatever it is that belongs to step 1, and I think that is very nice. So let us also do something about the last step, which is step 3. And in step 3, I want us to have a select field and a radio button. So I'm going to copy what we have here exactly the way it is, and then we will modify to whatever it is that we want. So what I want to have here is instead of input, I want us to have select, and wire model I want it to be status. The property will be status because I want us to actually ask for a user to give us the marital status, something of that sort. And of course we need to close this select field, and then the errors will be for select. And then of course with select we need to have the options here. So the first option, I want it to be to have a value of nothing, so just an empty thing. And then I also want it to be selected, so I will type here selected. And then inside here I want us to have just select option, or select gender, whatever it, I mean select marital status, whatever it is that you would want it to do. I would like to copy this twice and paste downwards here. So what you're going to have, we're going to have that and another value. So one of them is married, one of the options, married, and the other one single. I do not know why I'm feeling like that spelling is wrong. Doesn't matter, let us just have it like that. And of course here we are going to have married, like that. And this one I want it to be single. I want us to go ahead and have the last one. Maybe we can refresh. There's nothing that you will see actually, but I want us to have the last input, which I want it to be a radio input. There is a member in the audience who had requested if I can be able to just show how one can be able to handle that. So that is what I would like to just talk about now. And so after that, I want us to have a similar div. I will just have a div here, div with a class, similar class to the others of mb-3, like that. And then I want us to close the div. Inside here, I want us to have an inline checkbox. So because I want us to have two checkboxes, I want them to be inline. So what I'm going to have is we can have a div with a class of form check -check, and then we can have form check inline like that. I will close that div, and then inside here we can be able to have our values. So the first value, I want it to be male, and then the other one probably we can set it to female. So we can have input, and then we can have class, a class of form hyphen check input like that. And then of course we will give it a label. I want it to have a label of male. I want it to have a label of male like that. We can give it a class of form label like that. And then of course we have type. I want it to be a radio button, so radio. And then of course we can have wire model, the property that we are going to attach it to it, wire model. And in this case what I'm going to set it to is gender, and then that will be okay. I want to have another one. I want us to have another one, maybe inside a similar div. Maybe we can just have another input inside here. Maybe let us just copy this and we will check how it looks. If it looks nice, we will leave it like that. If not, maybe we modify it. So I want to have the other input female, and here I want to change the wire model will be the same. So we just have male and then female, but we will be setting to the same wire model. I want us to just check if everything is okay with our forms. And what I want to do, I want to change inside our Livewire class, I want to change the current step to something else. So let me change this current step to 3. And then we see what we have in that form that we have just created now. It looks like this. There's no other input. How so? Let me see. Let us go back. What I'm going to do, I'm going to remove this and just have it in its own form check inline class. So let us just take this and copy it and then paste it here, and then call this female like that. And then of course we also need to set the value. So we need to set the value here for the first one, value male, and then for this next one we can have the value as a female like that, female that way. I want to refresh and see how it looks. Now it looks nice. And then of course we need to have also the errors for these inputs of ours. So copy, and outside this div I want us to have our error for gender. And then of course there's something that I have done here. I've seen when I've pasted that this one should be status, not select. Okay, so current step is 3, so we have this as select. Yes, this one should be status, because that is what I have set in wire model. I also want to change the property to 2 and be able to see what happens in our second step. So let me open the Livewire class. Here, let me set this to 2. And once we have it as 2, let me see how that one is displaying email and phone. I think it's just perfect. So now let us go ahead and do a little bit more above this form of ours because we are having something step 1 out of 3, but it is not changing in accordance to whatever it is that we actually have, even currently as we are had coding some of the things. So what we need to have here, I want us to scroll upwards where we are having step 1 out of. So this one, step 1, I want to replace with current step. Current step. And then this other one, let me replace it with total steps. Underscore steps. I believe that is how I have saved it. So if we are to refresh, now you can see it saying 2 out of 3. And the reason why that is the case is actually because we have been able to set this step as step 2 here. So let me return it to 1 and then save. And then when we refresh, again, displaying perfectly, properly the way it is supposed to be. I want us to work with these buttons because obviously the next button will display here, but the previous should not display because where are we going to? There is no previous of this form. So this previous button should be displayed in the second step onwards. And then the submit button should be displayed in the last step. So in this case, for our form in step 3. So let us go ahead and handle that. I want us to go to our form. So I will scroll to the multi-step form down here. And I want to go to the place where we have the buttons. So the first button I want to handle is a previous button. And this previous button will be shown everywhere with an exception of the first step. So here I can be able to just say at if current step is greater than 1, and then we can have end if at end if. I believe that one will be perfect. It will be able to handle that very okay. I want us to handle the next button. This next button, I do not want us to include it in the last step. So what I'm going to say, if current step is less than the total steps underscore steps. And that means we will not be able to show it in the last input. I mean in the last step of the form. So this one I'm going to end it at end if like that. And then we can work with the last one. So this last one we want where the current step is the same as the number of the total steps. So here I can say at if current step is the same or equal to the total underscore steps. And then we will also have end if at end if like that. So if we refresh, as you can see, we are only having next on the first step. If I'm to change the step in our class and change it to 2, now what is going to happen? Now we will have the previous and next. Okay, that's okay. If I change it to 3 because it will be the last step, so in this case the current step and the total step are the same. Here, if we refresh, now we will have our submit button, but of course we will have the previous page also. So basically that is how our form will be. I want to move this one a little bit in the middle, this step something out of something, just to sort of give it some nice look. I'll just copy a class that I have put in this one, and we can be able to paste it there. So we can have it, copy this and paste where we are having step what out of, yes, here, like that there. And since we are having the title for each step, I would like to just copy this and paste for the second step and paste for the last step. So this step 2, we can paste that one here, and we can say contact details. And then for the last step, which is step 3, we can be able to paste whatever it is that we have here, and we can call it status stroke gender. Let me just call it that. I want my form to be a little bit small such that the video will not be very extremely long. So basically, this is what we have here. Of course, if we refresh, because we are in step 3, because we set it, now it is setting this one to status stroke gender. In other words, that step that we are talking about. Now, I want us to be able to handle the buttons, and we can be able to just say what each button will be doing when it is clicked. So let me go to our form, multi-step.blade, and down here, I want this button for previous. I just want to call the method. So if we have wire click, what I'm going to have here, the method, I'm going to call it decrement steps. That is the method that you'll be hitting. And then, of course, for this other one, we are going to call it increment steps. So because we are going to the next step, so I can just say increment steps. And then lastly, this one, we're just going to call it submit, like that. Now, let us go ahead and be able to handle these methods. So there's increment steps, decrement steps, and then also probably we can be able to handle the submit one. I will not do so much now. We will just update as we continue. So what I need to have here is a public function increment steps, like that. I believe that is what we have set there, and I need to copy this and paste here, and this one we will call it decrement, like that, decrement steps. And then of course the last one I want to call submit, like that. So for this one, we can be able to just we can just say this step. So this current step, let me return it to 1. So we can say this current step, current step, I think, typo, current step. We can just, if it is incrementing, we can just do that. And then for us to decrement, we will be able to just copy this and paste it here. And then I want us to decrement, so we can just have that. However, this is not foolproof. It has a problem that it can be able to create, but first of all, let us just enjoy it as it lasts. Next, previous, and then we go to step 1. So it's working perfectly, but I want to just handle a scenario where somebody might be able to because this is JavaScript and one can be able to call these methods, the increment and decrement from our front end, we can be able to just handle it a little bit professionally, and then we can be able to have it like that. So let us see how we can be able to handle the increment and decrement steps and make the methods even a little bit better. So I just want to put a caveat, sort of like prevent something malicious. I don't want us to increment beyond the step which is equivalent to total steps. So I want to just have an if function here, and we are going to say if this current step is less than total steps, this total underscore steps. That is the only time that I would want us to do incrementing. So we will not be able to do incrementing beyond the total steps, which is having a value of 3 for our form. So one cannot be able to increment to 4 whether they have done something in the front end or not. So we can have it like that, and we can be able to do something similar for this one. And for the decrementing, we do not want this value to go below 1, because 1 is the current step. So we cannot decrement up to -1, because now it will mess our application. So here I want to just say if this current step is less than 1, just like that, it will be able to handle that scenario perfectly. So I want to copy all that we are having here, or maybe cut and then paste it inside here. There is something else. I want us to handle validation, because according to how it is, whether somebody is validated or not, they can be able to go to the next step, and they can go to the next step, and they can even go and submit. But that is not how we want this application to work. So let us go ahead and do something to prevent that from happening. And what I want to do, I'm going to create another function here, which is going to handle validation for 2 steps. So in this case, the first step and the second step. For the final step, for submit, we can be able to handle that validation inside the submit method. So let us go ahead and handle validation. So I'm going to have public function, and then we are going to have validate form. Let me just call it like that, validate form. This is just my method. I'm adding some words there to avoid conflicts with Livewire or maybe Laravel validation. So this is what we are going to have. And here I want us to have, we are going to check for two things. So if the current step, and we are going to just have it this way, this current step is 1, then we can be able to validate only the inputs for the current step. And then else if this dot current step is now 2, then we can be able to handle validation for step 2 like that, and then we continue that way. So let me validate step 1. What we are going to have, we are going to have validated, and then we are going to have this validate, this validate, and inside here we are going to have our values. So of course in the first step we have first name. I think we have called it this way, first underscore name. This one we can just say it is required. Like that. Sorry. And then we can have the others. So this next one is middle name. Middle name. And then this one, the one that we have here, we are going to call it last name, that way. That will be able to assist us to validate those ones. I want to copy this and paste here, and then be able to validate whatever it is that we have in our form for step 2. I think in step 2 we have just email and phone. So email, we can have it as required, and I'd also want it to be a valid email. Maybe we can be able to give it a maximum of 255, just because we will be using the data type. In our table we will have the data type as string in this case, but we will not be saving this form, never mind. I will just go to up until the place where we have been able to submit. So what we have here is phone, and this one is required. Maybe we can say we have a minimum of 10 characters. It depends with where one is. So this one we can set it to a minimum of 10 characters. We are having a problem in our form, yes, because this one is supposed to actually be an arrow, not call signs, like that, because whatever it is that we're dealing with is an array. So also for these two, you can have them like that. Now, how do we make sure that when this form, when one clicks next, we can be able to push in the validation? So what we are going to do is just going to call this method. So I'm going to call this method inside next step. So when we click increment steps, then I'm going to call that method the first thing before we do the incrementing. So I'm going to have the property, I'm going to have this, and then we are going to have that method there, and save. So now I want us to go and attempt working on our form, because initially we were having a field day. Now if we click next, nothing is happening. It says no property for validation, first name. Yes, because we have not been able to set the properties actually above here. So we need to set all the properties here. So what I'm going to do, we are going to have them set above here. So we had several properties, and one of them was we have first name, first underscore name, and we can be able to copy this downwards to be able to put the other ones. So this one is last name. Then we have another property, middle name, and then we have another property, which in this case now would be phone, like that. We will copy this one still and change this property to email, and then copy again and again and have a status, and have I think status, and then the last one I think we had was gender. Of course, the last step in our form, we are going to validate it here. So in fact, middle name, let me put it optional, because at the end of everything sometimes you find somebody has only 2 names. Now I want to have validation also for the last properties, so I'm going to copy these and paste them now in the submit method. And here we are validating only 2 things. We are validating the status, and we are also validating what? We are validating the gender. And then after that, I would just want us to DD something here, maybe form submitted, because I will not be actually submitting this form. But of course, if you have been following the previous tutorials, you know how to submit a form. Probably you can be able, let me just to illustrate, you can be able to call a model. Maybe we have a model called register, and then create. And then inside here you have your array of values, so you can have first name, first underscore name, and you can set it to the property this first name, first underscore name, like that, and then you can go ahead and save it. But of course you can pass all of them. Of course you will need to have created the tables in the database and the model and all that. So that was just a demonstration, a short one. I do not intend to submit this form. So now I would like us to try it. I'm going to refresh and then attempt to move to the next input. Now it's saying first name required, last name required, but it's not displaying it the way I wanted. I do not know what the issue is. Let me try and check and see if we can be able to sort that issue out. So let me check our yes, text danger. Yes, that is embarrassing. Class, because it seems I was just typing my own things, and now this one has affected the whole form. Sorry, let me edit all through. And then also here class, and so on and so forth up until the end. Also this one class, and then the last one, I think, is it? Yes. So basically, if we attempt to submit, to move next, now it says these ones are required. If I type something in here and something in here and I click next, now we are moving to step 2. If I type something here that is not an email and maybe type some short value numbers here and say next, now we are getting validation errors on everything. This one says we need 10 characters, maybe those ones are at least 10. And here we need to put at something.com, sort of the way an email looks like. Now we will be allowed to move next. And then if I attempt to submit, still we are going to be told that the status field is required. We can be able to choose, and then we can be able to choose the gender. And then once we choose the gender, it is possible for us to submit our form. Now you can see form submitted. So basically that is what you do. And obviously if you check, if you move to the previous page, it's not working. Let me check why that is the case. once we submit, we can be able to just go ahead and reset the form. So maybe I can just pass here this reset, this reset like that, and then we try it again. But of course now it will just reset our page entirely. That is actually how we want it to actually behave. So if I type in something and something on the last name and we move next, we are able to move. If we want to move previous, the previous button is still not working. I think there is a problem in our code. Let me check. Where are we having previous? Increment steps, decrement steps. If this dot should be greater than 1, not less. That was a problem, I think, and that's the reason why it wasn't working ever. So now if we click next, we type in here, we are able to move next, and we can be able to put our email, something at gmail.com, and a number that is more than 10 characters. We can move next, and if we move previous, now the previous button is working. I think that was the reason. And then now we can also be able to select the gender, the status and gender, and submit, and then our form is reset. But as you can see in this last step, I also have a typo. I've still called the form, the input, in this case the label, I've still called it phone. So it seems as if what we are having there is a phone number. This one is supposed to be gender. I mean, this is supposed to be status, marital status. And I believe since our form is working perfectly the way it's supposed to work, this is the end of the tutorial episode. I ask that if you like the video and you have not subscribed, that you kindly subscribe to my channel. You can also click on the notification bell to be notified when I upload another interesting, awesome video. You can also engage in the comment section, and if you like the video, leave us a thumbs up. Thank you very much.